Hey folks, this is JR with DIY Prepper. Welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about the best prepper and survival items at Lowe's. First, we're going to be looking at things that you could use to put together something like a personal survival kit. Then we're going to talk about things that you could keep in your car. So if there's an emergency while you're out and about, you have everything that you need so that if something happens to your car, you can deal with that problem and then get back home. And then after that, we're going to be looking at things that Lowe's has that would help you bug in. So let's get started. When it comes to assembling a personal survival kit, Lowe's had a bunch of options. For bags, I was able to find a couple of backpacks, which could be useful, and they're technically tool bags, so they should hold up pretty well. They also had a couple of good multi-tools. One was the Gerber suspension, and the other was a Leatherman rebar. I also saw several folding knives that would be useful to keep in a kit or for EDC. Most of them were from tool companies like Craftsman or Cobalt, but there were some from more traditional knife companies like Columbia River Knife and Tool. They also had a few hatchets from Estwing in the tool section, along with some others by Fiskars in the garden section, and you should be able to find a few kinds of pry bars which do have uses in a survival situation, especially if you're assembling an urban survival kit. Lowe's also had some things that you could use to prevent injuries or illnesses during a disaster. I was able to find a small first aid kit that could take bandages and antiseptics, and you should be able to find many kinds of gloves. If you find yourself navigating around broken glass or other sharp objects, keeping your hands safe is essential. They had several respirators ranging from N95s all the way to reusable respirators with replaceable cartridges, and that's a nice change from the past couple years where they haven't been in stock. These would be useful if you're in a situation where you encounter large amounts of dust or smoke. Keeping a safety vest in your kit is also a good idea since you can use it to signal for help in an emergency in addition to its normal use of helping you not get mowed down by something. They also had a good selection of safety glasses along with ponchos and rain suits, which would be especially useful in cold or wet weather. My Lowe's had a small selection of flashlights and headlamps that would work well in a survival kit along with batteries to keep them running. They also had lighters, which although they were the long grill style lighters, they could still be useful if you needed to start a fire. When it comes to cordage, I was able to find some paracord along with some thicker rope. You can use these to do things like build shelters, make repairs, and lash gear to packs. At the front of the store, they had bottled water and Gatorade that you could use to stay hydrated, along with some snacks like trail mix. When it comes to things to keep in your car, Lowe's has mechanics tools which you could use to make minor repairs on the go. Things like wrenches, sockets, and ratchets are always good to have in case you need to replace something like a battery or headlight. One thing that a lot of people overlook is having a breaker bar and the correct size deep wall socket for the lug nuts on your vehicle. The tools that come with your car may not give you the leverage that you need to break a stubborn lug nut loose. They also had some jumper cables, which are something that everyone should keep in their car, but I was disappointed that my local store didn't have a portable battery jump pack. But they did have inverters that you could use to power AC devices using your car. I also saw a couple size of bolt cutters, also known as universal keys, in case something is blocking your path to your home or bug out property, along with some siphon pumps. Use those responsibly, please. If you need oil or just want to keep a little extra in your car, you should be able to find something that would work, along with things like WD-40 and penetrating oil to break loose stubborn fasteners. They had a couple of different gas cans that you could keep in your vehicle for emergencies, along with fuel stabilizer, which you could use if you're trying to set some fuel aside for your vehicle or generator. They had ratchet straps and bungees that you can use to secure loads, and I was able to find air compressors. Now, most of them were larger ones that you would keep in your garage to do things like help air up tires, work pneumatic tools, but they did have a small 12-volt compressor that you could keep in your car to help you deal with low tires. Lowe's has a lot of things to help you bug in your home or set up a survival retreat. They have several choices when it comes to backup power, and those include a few different gas generators along with standby generators which can be hooked up to your natural gas utilities for short-term emergencies. Lowe's also sells storm shelters, which is nice, especially where I live. We're in Tornado Alley, and it's nice to see that shelters are relatively easy to find because Twister ain't no joke. I was also able to find a small selection of LED lanterns that you could use for power outages or other things like camping. Now, if you're already invested in things like DeWalt or Cobalt cordless tools, they also have job site lighting, which will run on your power tool batteries. Usually lights like that are pretty bright. And they had a weather radio, which kind of surprised me. I hadn't seen one of those in the store before. Lowe's has security lights to help you monitor your property, along with a few different home security options and cameras. Given most of these will not work in a grid down situation, but they'll still help you keep an eye on things during relatively normal times with, little porch pirates and burglars, stuff like that before the mutant zombie bikers attack. When it comes to physical security, I was able to find things like padlocks and some steel chain and cables. This will help you lock down things like gates and make it harder for somebody to run off with your generator or other equipment. And then Lowe's also has fencing supplies. I was able to find chain link fencing and posts at my store, but you may be able to get barbed wire online. And they had chicken wire and hardware cloth, which are good for keeping critters where they belong. And you can also use them as trellises to help vining vegetable plants grow. One thing that a lot of people overlook is fire safety. Lowe's sells fire extinguishers along with smoke and carbon monoxide alarms to help keep your home and the people inside safe. If you need to make small repairs, you shouldn't have any trouble finding things like duct tape and zip ties along with different kinds of super glues, thread lockers, and epoxies. Lowe's also has a good selection of cleaning supplies. They have trash cans, which in addition to managing garbage, can also help you gather water if they're clean on the inside or you have something to line them. Contractor bags are a good choice for this since they're thicker and stronger than regular trash bags, and they can also be used to make ponchos or pack liners. I was able to find cleaning chemicals and pesticides, which are very important because during a long-term grid down situation, diseases will be a big concern. If you're able to keep your dwelling clean and free of pests, you'll greatly reduce the chances of you or someone in your group getting sick. They also had toilet paper, which isn't something that people normally think of when they think of hardware stores, but it makes it a good place to check if there's some sort of shortage. You should also be able to find a lot of 5-gallon buckets, which have a ton of survival uses. Lowe's has some off-grid cooking options as well. They have a good selection of gas grills, and you can do propane tank exchanges at many of their stores. If you like charcoal better, they have those, along with charcoal that you can set aside for when you need it. And I was able to find smaller grills that you could take with you if you needed to bug out, or if you just wanted something that you could take with you while you're camping or hunting. One of my favorite things to pick up at Lowe's is gardening supplies. If you're a new gardener, they have a good selection of vegetable plants in the spring, along with many kinds of garden soil, potting soil, and fertilizers. And if you prefer container gardening, they have stuff for that also. Lowe's, of course, is a good place to pick up building materials. You can use dimensional lumber and plywood to help make repairs to your home, build fortifications, or upgrade your home or property with things like sheds. Cinder blocks can be used for many different purposes, and of course, you'll need things like nails and screws, which they have plenty of. If you need to organize your gear and survival supplies, you should be able to find shelving that will work for what you need. They have larger shelving units, which are good to keep in your garage, along with smaller ones to keep in places like closets. When it comes to tools, Lowe's has a lot of options. They have power tools from a few different brands, and I did a video showing the kinds of power tools preppers should have, which you can see by clicking the card. Lowe's also sells chainsaws, which are useful if you have property you can harvest wood from, or if you need to clean up after a storm. And you should be able to find a good selection of hand tools, including wood saws, hacksaws, and even things like bench planes. And then they also have other hand tools that you can use to help maintain your property or harvest firewood. They got a good selection of axes and splitting mauls, along with other gardening tools like shovels and rakes. Lowe's has a good selection of paint, and while most of it is used for painting your houses and doing home improvement projects, they do have some spray paint which you could use to protect equipment or camouflage certain items. About this time last year, I did a video that was best prepper and survival items at Home Depot. And Home Depot at Lowe's, they sell a lot of the same stuff, but there are some differences. And these differences, they are really going to be things that I have observed near where I live. So what you have experienced where you live might be entirely different. Yours might be the exact opposite in some way. So bear in mind while I'm talking about these are just my experiences and my opinions. And when it comes to where I like to buy tools, I prefer Home Depot. And the big reason why is they sell my preferred brands of tools. Lowe's does not sell Makita, they don't sell Milwaukee, and those are really the two that I gravitate towards. And if I'm wanting a budget tool, I tend to stick with Ryobi, and Lowe's doesn't sell those either. So what I like Ryobi for is things like table saws, miter saws, bigger tools that I know I'm probably not going to use that often, but I'm going to use them often enough that I want something decent that'll do the job without too much of a headache. And when it comes to lumber and building materials, I prefer Lowe's. The Lowe's where I live, the prices are generally a little bit cheaper on most items than Home Depot, and the lumber yard is a little bit better organized, so I'm not having to get help to get things off of the very top shelf and having to wait for all that. Most of the time, whatever I need is down at ground level. I can just grab it and go. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you want to see the Home Depot video, you can click on this card. And if you want to see more places that have prepper and survival related items, then you guys can check out this playlist. Y'all have a good one. Thanks again.